Historically speaking, in America, black and brown children have certainly been undereducated and have been segregated from white children when it comes to public schooling. As we know, in 1954, the Supreme Court passed a ruling in the case of Brown versus Board of Education, which legally ended segregation, but in some parts of the country, they didn't oblige, other parts they did. So, from about 1960 to about 1980, school segregation specifically had been on a decline. But after 1980, it started to increase and is still steadily increasing. In my opinion, based on my research, it's more so because of socioeconomic issues and not necessarily racism as was in the past. Public schools are funded by property taxes, and so in richer neighborhoods where you're more likely to have more white people versus poorer neighborhoods where you're more likely to have more minorities and honestly more people, you have the disparity in money going to these high schools. So, to give you guys a scale or sort of background, a measuring stick, high school in Beverly Hills High School will have a lot more money to spend on educating their children than say Crenshaw High School. Property tax on a $15 million home is way more than property tax on a $6,000 home. And that's even for people who are homeowners. And you have to consider also there are probably a lot less children that live in Beverly Hills, which means a lot less high schools versus a lot more high schools in the LA Unified School District, which serves the poor communities, I'd say. So lack of funding really impacts the quality of education a child is likely to receive. When there's no money to pay for schools to have access to, you don't have money to pay teachers, you don't have money to pay coaches, you don't have money for resources that kids need like books and even computers. Whereas a high school such as Beverly Hills, they have everything they need. They're already ahead in the game because honestly they're white, and then they are getting a better quality free education because they can afford to live in a more expensive place. Kids in the hood, kids in inner cities, their parents, that's the only place that can afford to live, but the property tax is low, so the funding for schools is low, and so now these kids are kind of stuck in a cycle where it's hard to get out. It's hard for them to be educated at all, let alone educated in a manner where they feel like they have a chance to make something better of themselves. On top of the lack of education, you have lack of funding for extracurricular activities that might keep the black or brown kid off of the streets. And so I think this is a big social issue that people don't too much consider. It gets overlooked a lot, and it's just another way that black and brown kids are held back. Black and brown people, honestly, because our youth are everything. So I think this is something that we as a society should work on and put a conscious effort into fixing and creating parity in our education, and then watch our kids shine.